Oi, dala dangwa sipe dai no pa sipe ge tarpa dang tam jen jen pa pa tu ju pa sipa tam je je zar sipe ma nong ka dang nyam pe sim jen tam je dewa dang den dong a dang dra nyur do la nam e pa yang da pa Dobe Sanjo Rambo Je Doba
Hello. Here.
All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
Edi Je Do Sama Je Je Pardo Lenga Yisong Ge Wala Go Ma Je Pardo Lenga Yisong Ge Wala Go Tu De Ren Zong De Nye Mo Song Da Zam Je Pardo Lenga Yisong Ge Wala Go
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Oi sanje judan sojen chunom lo sanjo pade dane jasanje dage jin so jibe sonam je dola pin so sanje rupa yo.
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
Oi saye puje soye me do ra ra len ye nye de jimbande sanje shen la me de purva ye rogo nam da yin da je ba yo.
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the four continents, and the sun and the moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha field.
Om Garan Devandra Ekana Rana Mandala Padita So Semje Namje Sambadam Loya Sebra Jetawa Jejon Teman Tepaya Jejan Kolo Kodo
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
Umbo tude jedemba tam jenjemba tumba po suna yung tenjam suye nishu sansa lo tapando jata jo bebe ngen song le do jen chekta tongtan cho jorwa shi jo chula chansa lo tone dorwa lam yang tun la pata la rabde kwe shinga tamba yung ten shen gendun la yang samsa lo jodin jan jita la naru tam pama la shi je kambo pa pamo dorwa jan Kajila Manolango Sansa, Minji Jenja Purane, Tuzun Sanje Kunjang Honye, Lasu Yuga Musun to the Pasa, Manolango Sompa. Potin Zola Marmoja, Dakajo, the Medione, Kajan, Gone, Jisonte, Goson Tojin to Sato, Majana Jenjin, Azome Bonjo, Jilaso. Simjin Dong Danyo Da Dan Jena Dan Banam Jena Da Da Do. Tajidele, everyone. Pavake Corte, Katan Conita, Loju and Rotan, Tene, the Papa Gomba Yako, the desert Malawi. That ring also the Yamling, Tanimare Yendo Kandusegua, Tene Ma Labdu, Toma de Langasota, Tata Jundep Sindua, Teningo Logo Yorwa. When is an attack, good chin tower is not a drug glass of a mambo or Molate town row. They took all the Tata Lama Lapche or Marinaso. They pay Gunko, Hidra, Mariala, mambo or it. Thing Azola Cargo, your Simusu, Tata, and Yamnesi pickups Nimari Regent. And you can dress in the TV. Tico Tego, your thing. So that gender name goes on the ma. And that Jundep. Don't go Jim Sin, Tata Dangaran Soke, Pavan Yamlin Sujode, then it's Surindo, Check Karasegoro, Check Norwatan, Trovatan, Gaitan Corsa, Mepa Goni, Churi in the Yamlinte, Yapo Yongya, Chet, and Jupan Laman, Soro and the Yatan. The Nitin joked in a Jupan Laman on Soro Tamne, Papak and Yamlin. Purpa ye gomba de ke don jetawa yindo to to ya ke chet yorwa te gong de katsan te se lab sin bari de yanja lama go ji jundep no gu gu jun chet de ndo wa.
So today we continue with the teachings on Vajrakilaya. And last week we spoke a bit about the history of Vajrakilaya and also the enlightened intent of the 4 Kilayas. And today we continue with the actual practice, how we actually do the practice day by day. And so the practice begins with the lineage supplication to the supplication to the lineage gurus. And normally when we do a Drupchen, a great accomplishment practice, then it is like a preparation. This lineage supplication is like a preparation for the actual practice. But there is no need to go too much into this whole preparation of the Drupchen, because there is just too much to it. But not for the actual practice. How does it really begin? How do we each and day practice? So it begins with the lineage supplication in our sadhana. And sorry, the reason why we recite the lineage supplication in the beginning is so that we will be able to engage in the practice in an authentic and proper way, without any mistakes, without any confusion, without obstacles or deviations, so that the practice really becomes an excellent, good practice. So that's the purpose of reciting the lineage supplication. And so then after we have finished, we have completed the lineage supplication, and then we go into the actual Vajrakilaya practice. So it is in order to be able to realize the meaning of the 4 Kilayas in an authentic way, as it really is. For that sake, we are reciting the lineage supplication. So we have talked about those 4 Kilayas and so on already a little bit before, so we won't go into that again, but we will speak about the lineage supplication.
Tene tika jine ta nga tso jamdo ta semji tela la ko yorwa. Tata jamdo semji te nga tso ti dupta jake tardo sena shodan jepa tinang jepa tang gopa risha. Jamdo ta semji tene jamdo ta semji te si serpa la tambo jabyor san de go yorwa. Jabyor san de patela tata nga tso dupta dipa na miksa yo mari mato. Yena yini ngaran so sar de go ko yore. Kanda go yosena rang inkan ni wozen chune tene dorje yon ka la cho ta jing go je la cho cha chang nduen je nam ka la tin chi kwa na yin sen pep song san ba si tene ti nduen ni ta ngaran so ka tam bo jam ro te ka sa bo re te la yang ja ndwa ja go sa ma re 다 잠로 실그 구동 조의 가르를 있으나 다 잠로는 책 간들지 라비오로 메로 오늘 잠로스 그게 메연다 어때 말한서 잡요도 졸라지 대봐야 제도다 건조선다 자와선다 다 진고질라서 가래나도 졸라야 오늘 전에 그 님이야 대봐용도 다 되래 어tendu 다 용디 진보가 거니 잡선로 왔다 tene te jila ta semji se na yongo yorwa ta semji de namju nyamlin tham je ke nyembo sanjok sem ko tsi singo zon de pe ga chenbo rwa ten ju ta semji se ba ge donda de ga yongo yorse na te sar ge yinpeng ge lo de ya cher ro ya ta ya na yinpeng ge lo de ya jinso se to ba semji si de ta 구반라고 대니 연구 여러 장로 생기도다.
And so then, after the lineage supplication, we come to taking refuge and giving rise to bodhicitta, which in the Chinese sadhana is on page 8 and 9. And so the English sadhana I have here now, that will be on page 10. And so first we take refuge in the objects, the places of refuge. So to do that, we first have to visualize, have them clear in our mind, those places of refuge. And so here it's not very clear how to visualize it. It's very concise. But basically we have to bring the places of refuge up in our mind, and then think that with great faith and great devotion from the heart, light radiates, and then in the space in front of you appears then the assembly of the Vajrakilaya deities, all the mandala deities gathering like clouds in the space before you. So first you think in this way, and then once you have visualized that, then in their presence you go for refuge. And it's very clear in the text, the refuge itself, so there's no need to explain that. But so what's most important when we take refuge is that regardless of the actual words in the text, really the real purpose of taking refuge is what should arise when you take refuge is faith and devotion into those places of refuge from deep within. So the three jewels, the three roots, the mandala deities, to cultivate faith from the bottom of your heart. That's the purpose of taking refuge. And this faith arises when you recollect the qualities, when you remember the qualities of these deities. So you take refuge, and thereafter you cultivate bodhicitta, the mind generation. And as it is with any practice that we do, the essence of any practice is bodhicitta, and it's most important to cultivate that. So when we recite the section on giving rise to bodhicitta, therefore, try to increase and give rise to a mind of altruism, and remind yourself of this altruistic mind. So that's the reason why we take refuge and give rise to bodhicitta.
다 되게 지니 다베 줍친 스럽다도 얘는 다 윤샤 인라 된바단 세미 이야라 소바 용거요. 얘나 다다 줍탑 줍발라 대 요마르. 다 되지니 가르레고 요레스는 문주 돌마 Mundu Tormata, Jutab Jepatana, Cartorta, Gictos in Yorova. Tate to Sena, Tata Cartotina, Nangasu, the Tamnantin and Dua. Tata Jackie Teptesena, Shodam about the name and go to Yore. A cartor, the movie you're the carrier is in Chetangata, Yola, Yeda, Narang, the Desak, Nand, the Dago. The so tamchela ta torma mo teletine tini koran so kayan chi aran yamlen dala kaitan parche meba ma chepe ngaran so la chi ro dan chene tunjin rodin tende ji yongya ke che to ta nga so nyamlen se pa kap se ya tambo ti nyamlen sim ning du pa po tan ti sane ke spirit to patch and dry a put on go yure. Tenderly in the Koran so la torma mo. Tini translated of your tendesic yorova.
So then when we practice a Drupchen, a great accomplishment practice, there is an outer accomplishment. And when it's more extensive, then there would be a section on the 7 branches and the 4 immeasurables. But this sadhana here is a short sadhana. And so after we have taken refuge and cultivated bodhicitta, we come to the preliminary Dorma offering. In the elaborated sadhana, there is a white Dorma offering and there is a hindrance Dorma offering. But here in the brief sadhana, there is only a white Dorma offering. And in the Chinese sadhana, that is on page 5. In the English sadhana here, that's on page 7. And so what's the purpose of making such a white Dorma offering? So the place where we are practicing is inhabited by like local gods and kind of territorial spirits, those who own that place. And so it is to them that we are offering this Dorma, because by making this Dorma offering, through making this Dorma offering, the various hindrances and obstacles to our practice that are caused by these spirits will be cleared away, so they will not cause any obstacles. And moreover, they will actually become assistants in our practice. They will actually provide conducive circumstances for the practice. And they kind of loan us that place to practice. So then when we actually engage in practice, actually normally when we engage in practice, the practitioner and the place, the practitioner must form a good connection to that place. So first must kind of prepare the place into a conducive place for practice. And so part of that is to clear away these hindrances and then invoke activities and so forth.
Tene nipa de gitu sejute. Tandina na tata dutandina na yo marite ina chik labjana gitu sejute ta ngosa ku yorte pe nyomong ba shok chembo. Tene jeba ngama yang che nyomong ba la tene le nimba sa jawe ti wange ti sipa jumtu tende ka wange tata nusim chembo che mala che parche tang che mandu pala soba kona tongne mala che dokjari jotela che jisu yarang tang tela gawo yo nyinga tende ka reksu churpa tela ta gek lagu yo rewa ta tensu reksu churpa tela ngarang so ke yang torma gektu sena ta marbo ka reksu churpa korang so la yang Koran sa ke Debatea Kaha in Sundu, Yanche, Marbote, Shata, Lasso Baka Tamdawata, Chundondaw, Tendajaka Re, Tene Koransola, Data which Moyo, then Moala, Tambo Koranso, Sur Dödang around to Circuit and cook. Tell a tongue around to Tambo, Yadam Doji, you know, Yarjik Sanipa, Hajam Troji. Sa ye na purwata yung dengzop se de ba ji gomne tende se ne koran so ta pa ka ndang go go yo ra ko so ka dang go koran so hiwa ga go ni ke je ye na dorma to ba tende yin so cha de maran so ta bo go le yin do ne dang bo chon den do ko tene do yung ka dorma to so koran so la ta ka na ka do ba ka do yung dorma to so mo 자들이 바사자기나 되고요. 다다가 나랑 저도 반야면서 내더라. 만해버신도 사자기나 반 되고요.
Just to, even though here in this sadhana we do not have the hindrance Dorma, but just to mention the hindrance Dorma briefly. So the real object toward whom we dedicate the hindrance Dorma are very powerful afflictive emotions. And so, for example, a being in a previous life might have developed very strong afflictions, and driven by afflictions may have accumulated very negative karma. Then as a result of that, there is a result which is an activity corresponding to the cause. Then now in this life, they have a lot of negative thoughts, wishes to harm others, harm us humans, the practitioners, and so on. They want to create obstacles and want to create suffering and so forth. And they rejoice and they like anything that's negative, anything that's bad. So anything that belongs to this category of beings, anyone who has this kind of negative mind and who likes to cause trouble and so on, we can call that a hindrance. And so the hindrance Dorma is red in color. And the Dormas have different colors because the needs, the desires of certain beings is different. The red color represents flesh and blood. So that is what they delight in. So this is what is dedicated to them. So to make this offering, we first invite them into the space in front of us. So we are summoning them in, we are drawing them in. And how they are drawn in is by the Yidam deity Vajrakumara, who is Vajrakilaya, with one face and two arms, appearing in an extremely wrathful form. In the right hand holding a gila, and in the left hand displaying the threatening mudra. So first we visualize this in this way. And then Vajrakilaya has to give them a command, a fierce command, because these are not beings that we can just talk to peacefully. Through peaceful talk, they will not be subdued. So these are beings that need to be communicated with in a more fierce, wrathful way. So for that, we are first drawing them in. We are summoning them into the space in front. And we are dedicating this Dorma that consists of their desired substances and offer it to them. The Dorma then becomes whatever they desire. And then having made this offering, then these beings are together with that sent away. So these beings are then commanded, instructed to not remain here at this place of practice, but to go to a different place.
Tene ta sungkor gom su ju te lago yore. Tata ngaran so tap dipan de tawina tatela de sandrupsina pe dondam ge ganin ro yora tatela misa ge songo gonya kan yo mandela 쇼당 고바나한테는 누가 책임진 누가 돈이가 따와 돈담 그 때니 뒤때는 냠자 생도도 되니 돈담 그 때니 다 노자다 노지 객다 라소바 그 강야 저거 요 말아 니스 메바 그 따와 강드나 냠자 세소는 대근 투거 요래 대래 라바 고요 말아 디나 예선의 되게 요 얘나 나서 파치수 다 대다고 그 냠네 용거 요 말아 대다고 냠네 매용도 내 전통부 매용도 되니 다 개파트 차도 말아 저 송고 공고요 못 봤어요 티 송고 공단데 되니 라게
And so then next would actually be the establishing of the protection sphere. And so here in the brief, in a short sadhanam, that is actually not explicitly mentioned because this is the secret accomplishment that is more focusing on the ultimate meaning. So therefore, there is no real visualization of the protection sphere. So here, and in English, it's on page 11. Here, the protection sphere is more described from the perspective of the view of emptiness. So we basically just rest within a meditative state, within the view of emptiness. And within that ultimate state, actually, one realizes that no harm doer and no one to be harmed, actually, there's no hindrance that really exists. So if one just abides within a meditative state of non-duality, actually everything is complete within that. And however, here in this brief text, this is not mentioned. So here the brief text, only this is mentioned and not the whole visualization. So here it is just from the ultimate perspective. But, since we might not be able to always rest in a meditative state of the ultimate view, since we might not be on this high advanced level of practice, we still should mentally visualize an actual protection sphere. So there is a separate visualization for that, which is not in the sadhana that I'm going to explain.
송고 공야도 연거 요래 내 대답도 말람나 송고 되라 럼바 니 저런 춘샤 나가 그 강스就这当这了处个강스真的是中间럼바 니 연거 요래 다 당분 춘샤 나가 그 강한테는 당 나랑 포화도지 요는 사게 방안이 나랑 그 주보게 내가 자와 림파 토가 대와 상와 디내가 되니 이게 나 주고도와 이게 정아데 옴아홍 소하 스니 자와는 상고도 다텔레 오즈 당부 토거 홍레 오즈는 홍보디 샤소순 추스 샤소순 추바데 도르게 제거발로 조스 도르게 텔레 텐다와 망보 람바 인의 판추네 도르게 그 강조선 삼바스 테니 다티지니 나랑조 짜와고 텔레 오저카포 당보 땡거솔의 양추 땡거솔의 양추와 땡 콜로란 줄 콜로 쩨제발란 줄 테니 땡 콜로 쩨제바들은 콜루거강 다테 도르지 거강거 스롤로 거래 당보데 남아 티지니 스롤 짜와고 옴로 오저 땡소순추 당보 땡소순추 티지니 테와고 소 테와고 소레 오저 세포 롭소론추 당보 롭소론추 tata koluko kanka sro tene te radeko kan tende je jor son sambasi tambo te lamna.
Oh, yeah. So in the elaborate longer sadhana, there is an actual visualization on how you're supposed to visualize this protection sphere. I'm going to explain that, even though it's not in the brief sadhana. So there's 2 levels to that, 2 parts. First one is the spheres of 5 types of weapons, and second is the protection sphere of the wrathful one's display. Regarding the first one, the sphere of the 5 weapons. So first, you have visualized yourself as the great Vajrakilaya, and then there are 5 syllables at your 5 places. So the 5 places are the forehead, the throat, the heart, the navel, and the secret place. And the 5 syllables are Omahung Swaha. So first you visualize those 5 syllables at the 5 places, and then next from the Hung syllable at the heart, a blue light rays stream out into the eastern direction. And then these light rays become and 9, and then in all the 10 directions. And so then these light rays become a 9-pointed blue Vajra, turning into a Vajra sphere, like a protection sphere made of Vajra. So then many small Vajras emanate from that, and they form this Vajra protection sphere. Then next, from the Om syllable at the forehead, white light streams out into the upper direction, the direction above, and there it becomes an 8-spoked wheel. And then from that, from this wheel, then a sphere, a protection sphere of many wheels appears, and so that is outside. It appears outside the sphere of Vajras. So first you have the Vajras inside, and then outside of that you have the sphere, the protection sphere of wheels. And then next, from the Swa syllable at the navel, then yellow light streams forth into the southern direction, and these become swords, and then turn into many swords, and then that becomes the protection sphere of swords.
Oh, te jini rimpe ale wazer marbo tambo nopso sunchu te tuyok la jor tuyok te le tuyok mambo chune tata ko kan sumba ti srot na rade ko kan ga srot na tene tuyok ko kan ji jor son samba tene ti jini sangwa hale wazer jang ko tambo samso sunchu te dorje jadam lan jor tene dorje jadam tel te ndao mangbon chene tuyok ko kan ga srot na dorje jadam je ko kan jor son sa ko kan te da ke pansam la 다 초 망보요 봐. 양 덜 예절 던 적반나 초 총총 망보요 봐 대다고 다된 순천 나가 그 강. 드느지 공부도.
The next, from the throat, from the A syllable at the throat, red light streams out into the western direction, and then these light rays become a skull mace, and then from that again many skull maces appear, and then form a sphere, a protection sphere of skull maces, which is outside of the sword protection sphere. Then next, from the Ha syllable at the secret place, green light streams out into the northern direction, and then these become a Vajra cross, and then from that many countless Vajra crosses emerge, and outside of the sphere of skull maces, then a crossed Vajra sphere is formed. And so then in the spaces in between each of those protective spheres, and are many small wrathful deities, just like dust particles in a sun ray. So in 5 different colors. So these are the 5 protective spheres of weapons.
다 양 나랑 도제 요노 그 토카네 나랑 도제 요노 토카라 홍트나 요르바 텔레 홍예 껴 주거래 홍예 껴데 소껴 다 소비엔 산제 대원이 당껴 홍예 껴데 던데세나 네 소소란로 드니티 홍예 껴데 내년에 초교는 요 다다 표화 그 진고그 조 초교 다 송콜라 초교래 진고그 나로로这个 진고그 조서나 초교래 다다 나랑 소 예담 에리산드 다도 루그네 교로 라공고 디 초교데 지바래 다다 송고그 값사 디 초교데 다 소교라 된데서는 홍예 그 내년에 초교 차송 상고래 당보.
So then after that is the second protection sphere, which is the protection sphere of the wrathful ones, the 10 wrathful ones. And so here, again, you visualize yourself as Vajrakilaya, and so at your heart, there's a dark blue hung syllable, and from the hung at your heart, 10 dark blue hung syllables emanate into the 10 directions. In each of the 10 directions, one hung syllable goes. And then once there, they transform into the 10 wrathful ones. And so these 10 wrathful ones are actually the principal deities within the Vajrakilaya mandala. And they also are in the protection sphere. Now, when we practice on the inner level, in our practice of the secret accomplishment, we visualize the deities at 10 places of our body, so within our bodies. And these deities at the 10 places of our bodies are those same deities as here, the 10 wrathful ones.
다다다 추 저데 샤르섬 사조 도제 요는 라오다 삭자도 소데서 카리 꿈도도 카리 사마 샤르섬 사조 임바 데니 염단 조르데와 데 차마 찍바리 데니 데데 초 다다단디나나 맹단지 바티요레 맹도 솔람나 말하면 제발 기라 여사 말이 다 초교대 동교 동세나 노바지니 동갱다고 동갱교게 된테나 다 소교게 노바송야게 제도래 소교게 노바송야 소교니 되는 세와스니라고 조금만이 누지 동갱 그족 교요래 대교 맨 소소소소 요래 다 맨데 말아지 don't joke the internet troll jokes and the same your pass yore.
And then all of these 10 wrathful ones resemble Vajrakilaya in that they possess 3 faces and 6 arms. Their implements and their colors might be slightly different, but they all have those 3 faces and 6 arms, and they all are in union with the consort, with the mother. And so then there's no need to go into each of their names here. So you have the 10 wrathful ones, and each of those 10 wrathful ones is standing above a seat of a demon. So there's 10 different demons. And the symbolic of that is that by standing on 10 different demons, they are protecting from the harm caused by all the demons of the 10 directions. So in this way, they are protecting the 10 directions. So there are different kind of harm doers and demons. There's 8 kinds of demons or hindrances that become the seeds of those 10 wrathful ones.
Ozer karpo tang ozer marpo jek de yang garang yin jek de sarzi garang yin nima dang dawa yang dang sarzi garang yin sen tata chi gao nang yin sen ngarang su hinje ka kapsa yuwa ngarang su hinje kapsa ti yang sa dang nida ka gao de yang sa ka gao de songko de sima cha de yin tata ti ta nang lo re de wa
So then the wrathful, the protection sphere of the wrathful ones is inside of the protection sphere of 5 weapons. So the 5 weapons are outside, then inside of that are the 10 wrathful ones. And the wrathful ones are in union with their consorts, and in union from the place of the union, the place where the deities unite, the male and the female unite. From there, an infinite number of small wrathful ones emanate, and they completely fill every space without leaving any space empty, completely filling everything with small wrathful ones. And then within that, inside of that protection sphere of the wrathful ones, one visualizes that from light rays that are red and white emerge the Sanskrit vowels and consonants, which also are represented by sun and moon. So there appears sun and moon in union, just like an amulet. Actually, something similar also occurs in the Yamantaka practice, where we visualize the Sanskrit vowels and the consonants as sun and moon. But in the Yamantaka practice, it is visualized outside of the protection sphere. And so here it is visualized inside, and we should visualize according to the description.
Ninja tardo sena ta songkor tangbu te nida gao kabjo chi songkor si tero songkor juksum na lo la. Teni songkor jima juksum pa te yang dang sarzik yang dang sarzik tang teni nga jidra tendo ko songkor sima te yang dang sarzik nama te nida gao tendo cha de yuwa. Ina tata ndala ta nama te ta sima te ni chapjik to tendo sena. 아다 니마 다와 때 간송요는 탑당 시람 총고요라 봐. 탑 닌제 전보다 시람 동반이 다와 대니 총고요.
In the Yamantaka practice, so the first protection sphere is the union of the sun and moon, which is the first of the 13 protection spheres. And then the very last, the 13th protection sphere, is the sphere of the Sanskrit vowels and the consonants, and a sphere of mantra sound. So that is the sphere that is furthest on the outside and the most outside level. And so in this sense, they are separate, the consonants and the vowels and the sun and the moon, because the sun and the moon are the first protection sphere, like an amulet at the very center inside. But here in this practice, the inner and the outer are united, are unified. And the sun and the moon here represent the union of method and wisdom, method of great compassion, and the wisdom of the view of emptiness.
어야 다 되다고 그 송고고 엄치. 되니 다다 드탐 됐다고 세나 미라도선 슬랍데. 티콜라 도든다고 람나 다 멘다라 다 도마 데섬테 다가 라미케 진추바 투모 마인 바긴 추바 난거 주발라고 요르바 난주 텐두 다 담보 두츠 데 가르레세나 뉴몬번네 소와르시바케 미 된데제 작고 요르 저 당가 주민데 소가 다 조보케 폼보케 티네 나차라 소파소 토고 요르바 뉴몬발라 가야 핑거 요마로 다다 두츠 세조테케 테니 뉴몬발라 테냐나 테니 뉴몬바 이시라 조토야 된다게지 다 슬랍 요데바 된다지 다 코랑게 뭐 된다지와.
So visualize the protection sphere in this way. And then next in the sadhana, there is first the consecration of the offering substances of Amrita, Rakta, and Dorma. And that is an offering that belongs, it's like a unique and uncommon offering belonging to the unsurpassed, an unsurpassed offering. It's also called the inner offering. So first for the Amrita or nectar has the power to heal the disease of afflictive emotions. Just like when we are taking medicine, medicine can heal a disease or a physical illness, but of course we can't take a medicine for our afflictive emotions. So this nectar, this Amrita, transforms the afflictive emotions into primordial wisdom. So that's the Amrita or the nectar.
Tene minte kurang gyochan rawde tape zemang buti zomgo goyore ta re yenda lamna chaga mari gyochan mangboji zomgo yore. Tene te nga zu senlam se mekpa kanda che se goyore sana ta tangbo longe jinko kato janja dagam o tangbo yige yam te longe jinko kato janja yeb dagam jin ti tentana yige ram me jinko marbo yeb choksum tende jiksam tene ti gang tene yige kem sum yore kem sum te mongolan jone mongo jepo takwana yesen chebo te gandana yige te tobalan jone sko kalpe chembo da mongo jepo sum ka katane tende chega kapala chembo jiksam ta ti kapala na lo tena sanga ka tamse ge je 다 향아 두증아 존에 요거요래 다르래긴데 마히나 다티 담세게 제트 좋트나나 요여산 바시 데니 티 강데네 릉어상우 이겐 릉아 옹홍 잠시 아시 디겐 릉아 텐데스 삼 내가 데이터가 직시 디 차르드 데니 샵그 롱그 진거데 그 롱요네 데니 디 강공 그 메이진 거데 메par 메양반네 데니 투바 까발라데 주 차오차 까발라데 주음버 값은 난게 데니 향아 조증아도 마쇼 향아 조증아도 마쇼네 데니 디 따티나나 제 마장와라 소파 요바도 쪼파 뭐와그 저도 슬로우 팔루 뭐와그 저도 슬로파 르송아 로송아 보송아 데니티 랑부 주들라 데네 디 릉사옹 오홍 잠수 아트소 마쇼 릉사옹데 마쇼네 두즈 다다다 그 담적게 제들 템네 데니 릉아 자바 릉아 오 마쇼 쇼송 라인 두즈데 다 든지 차요
Die Lunge katok chachas in the carpore, kakare.
양코
Jankura, oh, yeah.
렉 양코요 양자세나
Oh, yeah. And so for the Amrita nectar offering, actually there are many different substances that need to be gathered. So many things that need to be brought together. So now we will not go into that. It would take too long. So we consecrate Amrita. And so how we should visualize when we consecrate is that, so first there is a yam syllable. A yam syllable transforms into a light green wind mandala that has the shape of a bow, like kind of a half circle. Then on top of that is ram syllable, red, that has the nature of fire and becomes a triangular shaped fire mandala. Then on top of that are 3 gem syllables, which transform into 3 human skulls. And then on top of that appears a very large skull, a kapala. And then, so actually a very vast heat and oven, I guess, and hearth first. And on top of that is an which then transforms into a vast skull. So think of it as very vast. So there's this vast skull sitting on top of this hearth of 3 human skulls. And then inside of that skull cup, the kapala, are various secret mantra, sacred substances, such as the 5 meats and the 5 nectars. So without having to list them, just think that these sacred substances are inside the kapala. And then on top of that, you visualize the seed syllables of the 5 Buddha families, the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, Hung, Dram, Shri, and A. And then... Katurit. Nigalagura. Oh yeah. So then, so you have the 5 syllables of the male Buddhas. So you have Hum, Tram, Shri, and A. And then also the 5 of the consorts, which are Mam, Lam, Bam, Bam, and Dam. So those 10 syllables. So on top of the kapala, the skull. And then once you visualize that, on the bottom, from the wind mandala, wind begins to stir. And that stirring of the wind causes the fire mandala to burn, to blaze. And that fire then heats up the contents of the kapala, the 5 nectars and the 5 meats. And they come to a complete boil, and then the substances overflow through the bubbles. So it begins to bubble and boil, and it overflows. So what overflows really is everything, all defilements contained are purged in this way and overflow. And then the warmth of the steam then melts the syllables of the 5 Buddha families. So the 10 syllables are then melted, and then they dissolve into the sacred substances within the kapala. So then they merge into one. And in this way, the content of the kapala, this nectar, then becomes the nature of the melted essence of the 5 Buddha families with their consorts. So that's the nature of that nectar.
Teni duce tela kado la na sher na yi. Teni ro na pe simbo. Ten nuba na nyumomba yishi le jurtumi. Ta tende che cha son sa me. Aso namjun duce ga tuta kado karpo jinji xianggo yoro. Rakta ga che marpo jinji xianggo yoro ba. Ten du ta tende che sene jinji labgo yoro. Me duce.
And so the color of this nectar is clear, like crystal clear. The flavor is very pleasant, and its power is that it has the power to transform the afflictive emotions into primordial wisdom. So thinking this way, when you consecrate the Amrita, and also normally when we set up the offering substances on the shrine, the Amrita offering, the nectar offering, for that we use a clear, a white liquid. And for the Rakta offering, we are using a red liquid. So think that now you have consecrated the Amrita in this way.
Rakta sejute karare sina ngo karare sina semjin tamche ke chakpa chimbo shimba chimbo tela namba teni cha tundje tate mekpan ro karare sego purpa tana karare sego yore sina tangbo ndwenje nangkala lamo chuba lamo dan chula judok nang tin lamo gertama sejute Te yopatik sam. Teni ti in kasang teni yege ra marboje ra. Chene teni ti ra te ta cha ke jangso na yin cha song sa. Ten cha te ta tata lapa na yin semjin tamche ke do cha ta shimba chenbo ta. Teni ta karasagoro rakta ten chupa pro la tine teni semjin tamche ke shimba tan chakwa tuzu tan charwa tende cheke che te teni rakta te chupa pro yore.
Then next is the Rakta offering. And so the essence of Rakta is, it represents the attachment and the strong attachment and the strong clinging in the minds of sentient beings. And the appearance, it appears, so this attachment of sentient beings appears in the form of blood. And the way in which we should visualize, according to the Vajrakilaya practice, so there appears an offering goddess. So of the 16 offering goddesses, it is the the goddess of song of the 16. And
Kasangni.
So there appears the offering goddess of song, and from her secret space, at her secret space, there is a red Ra syllable, which then kind of breaks open into an ocean of blood. And think that in this way, making this blood Rakta offering, the clinging and attachment in the minds of sentient beings is destroyed.
다 돌마스 숨바 돌마 대다 도용 롬죠 도용아요 저바 창대와 그 되니 롬죠 푸숨 줘봐 다다가가 좀도 칸바 자만 도용아라 딘 도용아라지 근데서는 가무당 신바 근데서는 대요와 되니 된 도용 롬죠 차창 좀돼 봐다 가서가 진 가르가오 요나 도용아나니까 야야당강 가르소 일 용용도 주지 차창 장대와 돌마스지도 되는지 진고가 라탐제라 다야 도용 것에 저도 주바버야 된다 돌마 다다미라 돌선 그 돌마테 양 주바버 주고 돌마리 도용 것 저도 되니 돌마 가히 다 란총지 다 야야간 총지 다 가히 다 레 이야라서 주야고 돌마 요래와 얘나 미라 돌선 서주고 가고 돌마데 주바고 돌마 도용 것 저도 되지.
And then there is the third, there is the Dorma offering. And so here the Dorma represents the offering of the five sense objects, perfect enjoyments of the five senses. And now since we are beings living in the desire realm, we all are attached to the five sense objects. And therefore, we make this an offering. And in our mind, we think that the Dorma consists of the best of the five sense objects, the one that you like the most. All of these excellent and finest aspects of the five sense objects are all complete within this Dorma. And the Dorma is then made as a Dorma offering of the five sense objects to the mandala deities. So here in this context, the Amrita, Rakta, and Dorma offerings are offerings that are made in the form, the Dorma is made in the form of the sense pleasures, sense objects. In a different context, a Dorma may also represent something else. For example, the Dorma may represent the deity itself, or it may represent the boundless palace of the deity, or it may represent enlightened activity, any of the four enlightened activities that is accomplished through Dorma offerings and so on. But here in this context of the offerings of Amrita, Rakta, and Dorma, the Dorma becomes an offering that appears in the form of the five sense objects.
다 민당 라타 돌마스 진지 라분도와 다 된듯이 진지 랍조주데 돈다 미네 가르르시나 다코 메시지도 간레인바 락타스지도 가레인바 돌마스지도 가레인바 대하고 와세 다다 라파나 예스 mik바시 된들레 되네 진지 랍스니 대치가 요래 다다티 체크나한테는 요트네 옴아 혼도와 티미라토스 돈이라고 남다도 주로에서 책이에요. 남선 재미 주지 온와홍 스타트 그 미라도서 데이터가 히바스게요. 데이터 이 히바스 히나더니 데라 진지 라블라고요. 데니 되게 지니다 제탄근 주바 심주 세인 주바 진지 라 다다 온 베자 아간 받은 부베스네 연구도 되게 그다 세인 주바 진지라 세인 주바스나 다 도용 롬주 락람라 나바 나초바 대자 체신 장망와 군도 잠분 주진나 이 라분도와 군도 잠분 주진세는 배 망부 찍래 찍초 찍래 찍초네 된데서는데 주배 Samke Machapa can show back the Talakundu Zamba shooting Saka. Tang also the Benza Agam Paden Pupe, the best in Lobo Caps, that Tendechi Jong Sonala Magne. Anything hard Malana, that's Saint Juba Chinjila Bari.
So then when we make these offerings of Amrita, Rakta, and Dorma, so here we are actually consecrating these offerings. What we really need to understand here when we're consecrating the offerings is what do they actually mean? What do they represent? What is the meaning of Amrita and of Rakta and of Dorma? So that is what we need to understand and then visualize in this way, the way it is described. So I'm looking at the English sadhana, where this section is on page 12 on top. And so at the end of that consecration, it says Om Ahung. And Om Ahung here, what it represents is the knowing of the meaning of those offerings. And then after that are the outer offerings, offering Argam, Padan Pipa, and so forth. And so there's one thing that there a vast array of offerings appears, a myriad array. We often speak about the offering clouds of Samantabhadra offerings. So that means that they become so many. So one multiplies into more and more and more until they become just inconceivable. So think in this way that the offering substances just expand and become these offering clouds of Samantabhadra. So this is how you should think when you recite the Argam Padam and so forth, the offerings. And then, so we recite this mantra, and then the outer offerings have been consecrated.
Oh, yeah, that's what Samata Karaseguro Mundo and our subject. Then Natun Rumpope, Tajimboche, K Tango, Yona Tambo, Tabret Gogurva, Mamboche, Tina, that's what Sama watch. Tango, Naran Lagomia, Ticola Legoyore. Naran Lagomia Lata, Ting Hona Tambo, Chetan, Tingens and number sums and Yoga. Tambo Tomba Niga Tongla Samno Tongya. Tene, Ninja Chovala, Tene, Tene, Sound like Sound, Yingder, Gomya, there's something in the number sums and Namju. Tender, Yena Tata Prava, getting in the Namsum Tele Gomdantes, Mandawati Yore. Take Karagongo Yoresena, Tambo. Tomba ni the Gomdan the Kandasiki Yorisena Pova capsule. Gejila, hope the color. Dungeon uncle long ne. They were hit by time, Jeje, Tuxo Gomo. Dorjen Humbo, saying about it. Kanda Chepa Tavasana. Long ne. Narangachi Zarana. Lives on Sambasi.
So all of these, up until this point, are preliminary practices, like preparatory practices. It's just like when you are inviting an important guest to your home, first you make all the preparations. And these were the preparations. Then next we come to the main part of the practice, where we actually practice the deity. And so normally we mention three kinds of samadhi, or states of meditative absorptions, which are normally we speak about the samadhi of emptiness, samadhi of compassion, and then third, the samadhi of the seed syllable of the deity. Here in the context of Vajrakilaya, the 3 samadhis are slightly different. So for the first one, it is the samadhi or the absorption of suchness. And so here, how it becomes the samadhi of emptiness. First, you're in this meditative state of emptiness. And then from within that state, in an instantly, in this expanse of empty space, the life force of the enlightened mind of all the Buddhas. So there appears this life force of the enlightened mind of all the Buddhas, appearing in the form of a 5-pointed blue Vajra before you, which is a thumb width in size, and like a shooting star descends, enters your heart.
Tini dorje te rang nyeng nesos lepson ngarang namshi ta niso me bandaw chane ngarang namshi ke chek chorton daw sene dorje te nyeng nesos lepson samba ndo je sang ko yore dela ka che ke twa yon zobo me ba cha sa de nyeng ka wa yore second what tanggo do te mare nyeng ke korang neso nyeng ke tinga ke zobo me na yang che te nyengane che yo sam chogo wa tendes sam go yo dambo te vieni je tengen te tere.
So this 5-pointed blue Vajra is before you, and it sparks with light, and then enters your heart. So first you have your physical body of flesh, blood, and bones, and then being touched by this light, it turns into fire and is burned away and becomes completely empty. It is just like burning away a small strand of hair that instantly just disappears once fire is set on it. So first the body completely disappears, and then the Vajra enters into your heart. And when the Vajra enters into your heart, it merges non-dually, indivisibly with your consciousness. So sometimes the question arises, if the body first disappears, then where is the heart that the Vajra goes into? There's no more heart, right? So actually, how it is that the body has disappeared. Even though the body has disappeared, you can still conceive of the place where the heart is. So the heart place, the heart center. So you can just think of the place where the heart is, but it doesn't have to be a body. So this is the samadhi of the Tathagata, of suchness.
Ni te tawo te ngune sene ta ngarang so ke shata ku zupo no torso ati po mare nga sambe nganjin je yorwa imba te to te me pase teni te jini dorje te aka nangkala pa me pa cha song samba se tongba la tende samgo no wa te tengen zen tambo te me tenga cha chang la ma do tende ri.
So actually we do not even just have to think it's just the body of flesh, blood, and bones that is destroyed. But what you should think is that actually it's mainly this sense, this thought of me, this I, that mainly has disappeared. And so in this samadhi, of suchness, then at the end, the Vajra in space basically has disappeared into emptiness.
Tati jini tata namto ka yame baka tongpa ti ngani tani yingje ka tsowa chikla tine ta tongni ta nyingje ni koni patsun rewa duwa tongpa ka tongte saraka ha kongu kapsu te tan mato bu simji mipa la yonan shane me yingjo chikta yopa lan zine pe kowa nana kale kade jo tamche tape nyingreje koran chon chwa ri sha samba nyingje ki chona ki yong yorwa te tabu ke nyingje ko lo tin chunzin da wo che lo ozer ka bo che nyama ko ozer nyama pe mangbu ko ozer na yin che ozer ka bo che ta nyingje ke ra yi rin do tende ji sha so samba chi te ozer te ke jiktenje kam chama la chap jiktenje kam chama la chap lakbar to teni phutpa chupa ke renzen ta ngema phwa ke chupa thop so ke chupa lama tam che ke ya thugju kor te ozer te ke thugju kor tendale teni tata phwa chupa ke chupa lama rekwan jimba to cho tam che ke chik tongni ke da cha na yin se de ne cha na yin se de ti da te ke ngarang cholo churkur man ro se ne ta phwa doje jon 지랑 냠냠는 때는 되니까 sempiego tonda rajigo tonla서 봐 야jen부 지고리 zen 직설만 좀 디다다 참나 이거 걸마서 선선 봐 된저리도
And so then next you are in a state of complete emptiness. So there is no thoughts within your mind. And then from within that state of emptiness arises a feeling of compassion. So emptiness and compassion have a strong connection to each other. And so first you have some understanding of emptiness. And then from within that state, abiding within that state, then you give rise to a mind of compassion, because there are all, then you see that knowing emptiness, you see that there are all these sentient beings who have not realized that. And so because of that, so then when compassion arises, you realize that it's because they have not realized how things really are. They think that they believe in the true existence of something that doesn't actually exist. And so in this way, they are completely confused, and their mind is clinging and grasping, and they experience so much suffering in samsara. So this feeling of compassion arises where you feel that these poor beings, they are also confused. So compassion arises, and then this compassion becomes white light rays, brilliant like the light rays of many suns together. So the nature of these light rays is compassion, and it radiates out, and it pervades all of the universes, all of the realms. And also these light rays then touch the masters who in the past have accomplished Vajrakilaya, the awareness holders, those lineage masters, and it awakens, invokes their mind, their enlightened minds. And then having awoken their enlightened minds, then these lineage masters who have accomplished Vajrakilaya, these Vidyadharas, the awareness holders, they then speak just like an empty sound, which is like an echo, speak to us, samsaric beings, and also give us like an encouragement. They also awaken our heart, and they say that through your practice and accomplishment of Vajrakumara, Vajrakilaya, you must then engage in activities that will benefit sentient beings, self and others, vastly. So then they have given this command, which then resounds like an echo.
Gomya tele leko yore, ten ngaranzo tata druptam di nani na, nga tete na di andan chupa kan yuk teri hong nang upo na tso yarye kang si sa teni ngo zang. Tata na leko yore, teni ti ko lepe shipchan ro mangbo yung yore, teren ngaranzo tanan chang ya na gasari. Tara ngaranzo tata charye se na, purwa te chuchi te nima som ra ore wa. Nima som ku tata mari, da nima ye naranzo proha ku dumchu tsadu man kadu tsana ti part man tu ne tendesene ma heya yin tini tren tanan chamya ta ka khel twa yu sari ti ko le twa tni sena.
And so then the white light rays gather back, and then when they gather back in an instant, there arises the samadhi of the causal samadhi. And that is then the entire visualization of the mandala, beginning with the 4 elements and so on, according to the sadhana, which in the Chinese translation is on page 10, in the English on page 12. It begins with generating the commitment, being Hung, the manifold, immeasurable palace appears, and so forth. So then there is much to that visualization. But for today, we will stop here. And so regarding the teachings in general, we have made the plan to have 3 days, 3 weekends of that teaching on Vajrakilaya. But it seems that 3 days will not be enough. So we will need at least 4, maybe more teachings. So after we have completed our Vajrakilaya Drupchu here at the center, then we will continue with more teachings. But for today, we stop here, and it seems that there are a few questions. So let's see, they're written in the chat, right? How can we build a dorma at our homes for the Drupchen? Sosuki chimla, sosuki nangla Drupchen yamen seva ina tini dorma khanda zizo goris.
Sosu nangla ti po ma ti po na pi dorma chachang zo to mari. Then the zo mata na ya chare gawa yong mari. Chudor to so ngondu dorma te ta ti korte ta khala saya khala kre su chupa. Pe cooking raw ta dry na raw ta tende je pe tyo se na chogo yore. Ganda na saya kre su chupa ji yin de yore. Tene ta zo wo go dorma ta ta ngarang zo ge chi la tang jin ko ge cha to zo ne 샤레 메나 양다 군란다 탕칸다 데메나 다다체 다 상당 누라서 볼 주야리 신 된들 주야리 그 도마 요라 대zam가 받친 저게 요래 맥부팅이라고 그러고.
So if you are by yourself, then you cannot, of course, make all of these dormas. But it's okay, even if you don't make all of these dormas, there is really no contradiction here. For example, what you can use instead, for example, when you're offering the preliminary dorma kind, like the offering dorma, right? The preliminary dorma that you offer, that could be anything that is edible, any kind of type of food. For example, a cookie, or some dry fruit, or some nuts, and so on. Anything that's edible, really. And for the main Dorma that represents the actual deity and the mandala. You can also, even if you don't have that Dorma, you can, for example, arrange a statue or a tanka. And there's also certain kind of dormas that are durable, for example, made out of copper or silver or wood and so on. So you can also arrange any of those kind of dormas for the main dorma. So is it a sadhana? Oh yeah, we already had that. Okay. All sentient beings are in unity with the Yidam. What about the Ratnavali MMK? Neither one nor many argument. Buddha is neither the aggregates nor separate from them. How should we interpret the Yidam in relation to the families? Let me think about this. What's the Ratnavali MMK? Okay. So, so this Songyorava, Teni Semchen Tamche, Yidam dan Yerme by Yoris. Teni di Uma Tawa Sherab Nala, she Songuyosara, Uma Tawa Sherab. Dinalam Yore di Tombani Kola Chicken Sare. Teni Dirang Tikaring Hakumando, Penak, a date this Songyorava, Uma Tawa Sherab Nala, Teni Chikyama. Chik mare, ni mare, mamboya mare, niga yang mayin, chisongu yorava, chik mayin, ni mayin, niga yang mayin. The yina yang ranso, nisme bayang mayin, ram. Yina yang, semchen tamche, yida da nisme baris, songu yorava. And then the carriers, then kaisana, sangye sayati, pumbo yang mare, teni pumbo tang kaka yang mare. Teni ina teni yidam chidang yidam towo didang kempana gyava ringa la sopa tin drava khare chade yoris ngasa dikova khande lengore sama drava yungyo ta wati sama yerme pa yungyo te
ni me pa mare jojute ngune se na ta ni me pa rewa yena ni me pa mare jojute ngaso ni me pa se na ngarang su telan zimba ji yonggo yorwa ni me pa re sam ni zimba ji yor telatini ni me pa mare la ko yore teni sanje jojute 당코르도 저 가는 레와를 있으나 나랑 속에 다다게 사동 송은 요소나티 그 용딘 사동 송은 요 다다 꾸숨 예미스지데 다다게 뭐 동바데 주거다라 인사와데 롱거 투제 군자 닌제데 주거 대섬 송은 요데 바제 산제서지들 대섬 송은 요데 바제 요르와 대선 son도 욕대 바제 요발라 티네 테니 다 레당 까와 요나 라이게 테니 셈진거 동라 테니 족주거 낭용거 요르와 맵도 마구봉안에 낭용거 요르와 텔라 테니 코르당 롱거당 쪼거스나 다 야와 랭마세나 파 젠코게 테니 라 임바세나 덴드세네 용거 요르와 덴드세랑 문진고 사레
So regarding this statement in the Mula Madhyama Karika, so it is neither one nor many nor both nor either, so nor two, no, not two. So this question really relates to they are not two. So actually, so they are not non-dual, basically. They are not non-dual in this context. So actually, even though that is how it is said in that text, someone talking here. So actually, even though this is what it is said, they actually are non-dual, even though it is said that they are not non-dual, but they are actually non-dual. But the reason, there's something going on here. Can somebody turn this off? So even though they are non-dual, the reason why it is said in this text that they are not non-dual is because we also have a grasping, a fixation to this concept of they are non-dual. There's this concept in our mind, they are non-dual. And because we have this conceptual grasping to non-duality in our mind, in that text, it says they are not non-dual. But really, in ultimate reality, they are non-dual. So the way the Yidam is then related to the other families, or the Buddhas is related to the retinue and so on. So the relation is that's the my voice losing. That's the the retinue arising from the Buddha are I don't know what's happening. Sorry. The retinue is an appearance, a quality arising from this union of clarity and emptiness, which is the deity. So a Buddha is the union of the three kayas. That is, a Buddha's mind's essence is empty, which is the Dharmakaya. The mind is also by nature clear, which is the Sambhogakaya. And then this union is an all-pervasive compassion, which is the Nirmanakaya. So what we call a Buddha is this unity of the three kayas. And then if sentient beings possess the karma and the fortune, then these emanations will manifest from this Buddha mind and appear in the form of rupakaya, of form emanation, in order to benefit sentient beings. And they appear naturally and effortlessly. And this is how the retinue appears. The various Sambhogakayas, the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, all the mandala deities, all the other deities. This is how they appear. This is how we should recognize them.
Oh, yeah,
Then, oh, wait a minute. Is this a question? Let me see. But these are the notes from the teachings, or is this a question? Because it's quite a long note.
Are the notes of the teaching, but the very bottom one seems like a question.
Or a question related to the notes, huh?
The very that's a question.
Yeah. So I will. So maybe I won't read all of the notes. You guys can read it. But based on that, the question is, in some texts, sorry, in some texts, Vajrachana at the center, others Akshobhya. Which one is here? Actually, here in this practice, at the center is the Buddha Amoka Siddhi. Also in the sadhana, it says a sign of empowerment is Amoka Siddhi, which shows that Amoka Siddhi is the Lord of that family of this practice. Kaisena kondim kota driva tankindiri ko mikpa sama yangia tigito pena tambo songkoni teni research teni tatami de mikpa sama kerang songsonga teni chowocho teni mikpa sama ko yangia tigito kare ni mishi
lapsari tama te
lapsari
recording
Yeah, so it seems we don't have to go through the teaching notes here, right? Because if anything is unclear, you can listen to the recording. Oh, but then here's one more. So in the 3 types of HYT, Vajra, Lotus, and Tathagata, yes? Is this the highest Yoga Tantra? Okay. In the 3 types of highest Yoga Tantra, is this the Tathagata lineage? Dini laman namcho mandawa zom yoraba. The doje bima tang dishin shikpa sangye rira. Tanda propa nyamlen di dishin shikpa rik sangye ki rik rive yupa.
Proper nyamling the curry reg some chehe mari tata Java reg knock younger Yoruba. The ledger regs in.
So and there are not just 3 lineages or 3 kinds. Normally we speak about the 5 Buddha families, and of these the Vajrakilaya practice belongs to the Karma family.
Oh yeah, that's the name. Sorry.
That's it. Oh, there's more. Tarang tok. Oh, tarang kong yige jigi. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the name. Sorry, you're in train.
But would you like? Is it okay if you ask your question next week? Oh, Koti, please explain again about the triangle. Maybe next. I don't know which triangle. Maybe next week, huh?
Triangle level maring so Jimana
Yeah. Oh. We're not yet at the triangle, so we come there later on.
Next week.
Next week we speak about the triangle.
Okay. Then I do short dedication prayers. Sunam de tamje zipani tome nipa danam panse de jega namje balong trupa supen solen drova drova yo lama gongkan zangwa sovan de jode goze renwa sovan chile da yen jeba sovan de lama dang drova me ba zinye lo nyamba bawe jedan jimba da Kundo zambo de yan de yen de da kunji jiso da lo jen ge wan da tam je rab do mo. Sanje kusum ni be san la dan chu ni man jo din be san la dan gen de me sin din be san la ju dong mo ye mo lang ro ba yo kun jo sun je din bo da san je da san je tam je je sin je lo da to ni yong su zo ben ga dan jin bo da ju je ra yin no bo da ji sam je mo cha pe top ji te te yin dan ro bo ju je da dan kon de tam je je tu zum da sa ba ye be ge wa za wan de da da sim je tam je nyu do la no me ba yan da ba zo pe san jo rum bo je do ba jo je tim be ba jo la me cha be de din jin ji sa de yong la ja tim be jin da nga dang jo wa je Okay, finish tonight's teaching.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lama.
Thank you, Ina.
Thank you.